Story: one sister's friend mocked my mental health struggles in her wedding speech. I, 27F, was a bridesmaid at my older sister's wedding last week. Everything seemed perfect until the reception. During her speech, the maid of honor, who has been my sister's best friend since childhood, made a joke about how I was the family screw-up who finally managed to do something right by not messing up my bridesmaid duties. Everyone laughed, but I didn't find it funny. For context, I've had a rough few years, struggling with my mental health and dropping out of college for a while. I've since gotten my life back on track, but it's still a sensitive topic for me. Hearing that joke in front of all our family and friends wasn't funny at all. My sister's best friend and I never really got along, but I never expected something like this from her, especially on a day that wasn't about me at all. I tried to stay composed but felt the tears coming, so I quietly left the reception and went outside to collect myself. My sister followed me out and asked what was wrong. When I told her, she said it was just a joke and meant nothing bad. I tried to go back inside but ended up leaving the wedding early. My parents understand why I was upset, but my sister is angry with me. I feel terrible for leaving, but I also feel like I had the right to feel hurt and humiliated. Commenters' reactions. NTA Mo was being a mean girl. Her speech should have been about the couple who just got married. There was no reason to bring you into her speech at all, except to be mean. Mo should be ashamed of herself. Your sister not seeing this and her words to you also make her an A. I thought about it again, but I still can't find a reason for her bringing me into her speech. NTA, from the way you describe your sister's reaction, her BFF feels free to belittle you because your sister always goes along with it. If your sister considers insulting you in a public setting like that to be a joke, you can bet money that they have shared similar jokes between them before. I agree with this. My sister should have stood up for me. NTA, no one wants to be the butt of a joke, and the friend should have run the speech by your sister prior. Yes, if my sister gave the thumbs up on it, that makes it even worse. NTA, mocking someone's mental health in any circumstance is despicable. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Exactly, it's incredibly hurtful and humiliating. NTA, if your sister doesn't love and respect you enough to not use that against you, then going NC might be the best option. I agree. I'm considering going no contact with my sister for a while. I've decided to move on from what happened and everything she said to me before. My parents and brother have been supportive, and I know I can rely on them. Update. Thank you to everyone who commented on my post and gave their opinions without being too harsh. I talked with my parents and brother about what happened. They assured me I have nothing to apologize for. My brother told me that my brother-in-law didn't like the way the maid of honor called me a screw-up, and some of those who laughed later said they did so out of nervousness. When I visited my sister to talk, her best friend was on the phone the entire time. My sister said that just a few years ago, I would have laughed and not taken the joke as an insult. I told her that not everyone knows why she called me a screw-up. I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anxiety when I was 17, and I don't like it when someone touches my head, especially my hair or the back of my neck. My sister knows all of this. During our conversation, she kept putting her hand on the back of my neck, pulling me toward her with each sentence, as if to say, "Do you understand I hated it and felt irritated?" I tried to leave, but she insisted no one was leaving until we sorted this out. Her best friend refused to apologize and blamed me for her husband's anger on their wedding day. When I tried to explain, she brushed my words off. My sister eventually apologized, but I didn't say anything and left. I've decided to go no contact with my sister for now. I want to move on and improve myself without constantly being reminded of what I was a few years ago. My parents and brother never made me feel ashamed of my mental health struggles, and I am proud of how far I've come. Story 2: Husband and Phil obsessed with the idea of my death in childbirth. My husband and I were expecting our first child, which was a sensitive issue as his mother died in childbirth. Despite counseling and therapy, my husband and his father became convinced I would die in childbirth. Their behavior was making me stressed and uncomfortable. They even asked me to update my life insurance, draft a will, and inventory my possessions. My Phil, who often ate dinner with us, pressured me about being a grieving widower with a newborn. He even insisted on no epidural or laughing gas during delivery. My husband backed his father on everything and acted like my due date was my death date. I told my husband his behavior made me stressed and upset, but it only got worse. I didn't want them in the delivery room, especially my Phil. My therapist supported my decision, but I needed outside perspective. The commenters' reactions. NTA, tell him you want to go to his next therapy appointment and explain to the therapist what has been going on. NTA consider getting power of attorney for someone else to make medical decisions during this period. NTA get a doula for support and to advocate for you during labor. NTA, make sure you have someone who will be there for you, especially with the pressure from your husband. NTA, I'm happy you are alive and away from those horrible men. Update. I discovered my husband wasn't attending therapy. When I confronted him, he admitted he was just spending time with his father. I gave him an ultimatum: therapy or I leave. He refused therapy, so I packed my things and stayed with my mother. My husband and his family harassed me, so I changed my number. In the end, my mother was my support person during delivery. The nursing staff was great, and I felt safe knowing my ex and his father couldn't get near me. The divorce is ongoing, but I hope we can co-parent. My ex loves our baby girl, but our relationship is over, and I will never let my ex feel near my daughter. I'm alive, happy, and have my baby in my arms. Life is good. Story 3: Friend demands compensation after staying with us for 2 weeks. My 35M friend 36M stayed with us for 2 weeks while his place was being fumigated. It was an arrangement made in good faith, as he's a longtime friend, and we've always been there for each other. However, after he left, he sent me an itemized bill claiming I owe him money for his services during his stay. This included things like babysitting, watching my kids while my wife and I went out, housekeeping, cleaning up after himself, and meal preparation, cooking dinner twice. I'm flabbergasted and don't know how to respond. For context, my friend has been going through a rough patch. He lost his job a few months ago and has been struggling to find new work. He's been staying with various friends and family to save on rent. When he asked if he could stay with us, I didn't hesitate. My wife 34F was supportive but also a bit wary, given his current situation. During his stay, he was generally helpful but also seemed a bit on edge. He's always been a bit quirky, but nothing out of the ordinary. We provided him with a comfortable room, food, and anything else he needed. We never discussed any form of compensation or exchange of services for his stay. To me, it was simply a gesture of friendship. The bill he sent included babysitting 3 times $150, housekeeping $200, meal preparation 2 times $50, miscellaneous unspecified $100, total $500. I'm at a loss. We didn't ask him to do any of these things. He offered to babysit because he said he wanted to help and give us a break. The housekeeping was simply cleaning up after himself, and the meals he prepared were spontaneous gestures, not requested by us. The miscellaneous charges are baffling and have no explanation. When I called him to discuss it, he insisted that he spent a significant amount of time and effort helping us, and that it's only fair he gets compensated. I tried to explain that we saw it as a friendly gesture, and that we never intended to owe him anything. But he's adamant. My wife is furious and feels taken advantage of. She thinks we should cut ties with him, as this feels like a betrayal of trust. I'm torn because he's been a close friend for years, and I'm wondering if this is a cry for help due to his current financial struggles. I don't want to lose a friend, but this feels incredibly wrong. Our comments. Dazed confused NTA. This is bizarre. He stayed with you for free, and now he's charging you? His behavior is not normal, and it's unfair to you and your wife. Cut ties if necessary. Baffled buddy, you need to nip this in the bud. Tell him you never agreed to any of these charges and that his behavior is unacceptable. If he continues to insist, maybe consider legal advice. This is not how friendships work. Empathize him while his actions are out of line. It's possible he's desperate and not thinking clearly. You might want to have a heart-to-heart with him. Explain how his actions made you feel and see if you can get to the root of the issue. Angry spouse, your wife is right to be upset. This is a huge red flag. Friends don't pull stunts like this. You need to set clear boundaries and not let him take advantage of your generosity. The update. Thanks to everyone for your advice. I decided to have a serious conversation with my friend. I laid out how his bill made us feel and how unexpected and inappropriate it was. I also asked him why he felt the need to charge us after we provided him with free accommodation and meals. It turns out he's in more trouble than I realized. He's deeply in debt and was hoping to make some money to cover his bills. He apologized profusely for his actions, admitting that it was a desperate and misguided attempt. He offered to retract the bill and said he understands if we want to cut ties with him. After discussing it with my wife, we decided to help him in a different way. We offered to assist him with finding a job and managing his finances, but made it clear that his actions were not acceptable and that trust needs to be rebuilt. It's going to be a long road, but I hope we can get through this as friends. Comments on update. Helpful Harry, that's a very kind and mature way to handle the situation. Hopefully he learns from this and gets back on his feet with your help. Skeptical, Sully, be cautious. It's good to help, but make sure he understands that this kind of behavior is not okay and won't be tolerated again. Supportive Shu, you're a great friend for not abandoning him despite his mistake. Just keep firm boundaries in place and make sure he's genuinely trying to improve. This story highlights the complexities of friendship, trust, and boundaries, especially when dealing with someone in a difficult situation. What would you have done in this situation?